All the time.
Why do they want to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to talk to them.
Oh wait, can I have the Wi-Fi? I just want to turn it.
Oh yeah.
Ready to go, Sean?
Mhm.
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's probably morning, at least for most of you, but it feels like time, along with everything else, has become very uncertain in the time of COVID. I am Gary Handwerk, a professor in humanities here at the University of Washington and director of its program on the environment. I want to welcome you to the still new world of Zoom. For the students and others who are actually on the Zoom, I encourage you to put your video on so you can see people and people can see you if you wish. I encourage you in general to stay on mute, but there will be some occasions like when we do the processional where we're going to encourage you to unmute and participate as we try to figure out how to navigate the world of Zoom. On behalf of our program, our faculty and our staff, I want to welcome you to what is every year a source of considerable pleasure and pride. I want to begin with words that are becoming a university tradition. The University of Washington acknowledges the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land that touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. Today is a day for celebration. We're here to honor our graduating seniors. And I want to begin by trying an unmute just to see how this works. Everybody unmute. And I would like to hear from everybody on the Zoom the most raucous, cacophonous roar of applause that you can manage, right?
Downstairs is going what?
Cool, that worked. You've done something really extraordinary, all of you. You've concluded your UW careers under circumstances unlike any I have ever seen in my life. You finish with steep hills ahead of you. We are here for rituals are ceremonies. Rituals are ceremonies for communal celebration, and we want this day to be that. But rituals are also ceremonies for collective grief, and we can't forget that this celebration lies just 2 days apart from the funeral of George Floyd. Rituals are especially important in times of disruption, but rituals risk becoming empty unless we constantly refill them with meaning. For rituals, we have special words and phrases, and those words matter. Never just by themselves as words, but as they connect to actions. Never alone, but as they resonate with other words within us. At this historical moment, we all need to listen, really listen, as hard as we ever have. So I want to return to the Coast Salish acknowledgement and to listen to that for a moment in light of a conversation that I had about a year ago with a Native American faculty member on campus. And I was asking him whether it's actually okay for me as a white faculty member to use those words and what lies behind them. What are they intended to signify? His answer was really compelling for me. He said, these are words spoken when varied tribes are gathered, a gesture of deference toward the particular tribe whose land they had assembled upon. In saying them, we say that we agree for this time, for this meeting, to follow the customs and procedures of the people of this land. Let them, here and now, set the rules for discourse, to let them decide for today what our shared and unshared words mean. That respect for different histories and experiences, Indigenous, Black, Brown, and others, is more vital now than it has ever been. So where is POE's land and where do we stand? It's not Wallace Hall, or for most of us right now, even the UW campus. But symbolically, I think we do actually stand together on the same earth and for a stance of planetary health, well-being, and equity. We're going to begin now with some introductory remarks from Lisa Groundlick. She is the Mary Laird Wood Professor and Dean of the College of the Environment. Her primary research interests are in paleoecology and the ways that ecosystems and human societies adapt to climate change, with a special focus on severe and persistent drought. This, like a couple other things, is pre-recorded. So.
It is my distinct honor to be one of the first to congratulate you on your graduation from the University of Washington. This is indeed an accomplishment for which you should all be proud. And I am sorry that we couldn't be together for this special occasion. It's hard not to be able to celebrate in person. And I know that the path that brought you to today's graduation has been far from direct. The lessons that test us the most as students are often not taught in the classrooms or the lab. They're not assessed in exams. Any typical year of learning is peppered with obstacles, but in the final stages of this year, you have come up against unprecedented complications. The academic journey is not just about grades, it's about learning how to juggle, to prioritize, to sacrifice, and to persevere. To be here today, you have proven that you have those skills, and that adaptability will serve you well. You take with you not just a degree, but a deep wellspring of life experience to draw upon as you move on in your life. Here at the University of Washington, you learned to question and think more critically. You learned the essential value of teamwork and how to build something together with your classmates. You immersed yourself in your chosen discipline, and at the end of the day, you became a leader. I can tell you that as dean, it has been inspiring to watch you grow. Thank you for giving me a front row seat. As our next leaders, you will make this world a more livable, sustainable place for all of us. And I couldn't be more hopeful about the future, knowing that you will be the people leading the charge. So what does come next? For some of you, it may be an internship or your first job. For others, the academic journey continues with grad school or professional training. And for some of you, the job hunt is on, and it can be scary out there, particularly now. But one thing I know for sure is that our students are the most employable in the country. You are now equipped with the knowledge, skills, and outlook that employers all over the world need right now. Our graduates have persevered through terrible hard times before, and no doubt they will do so again. But that now, more than ever, our world needs smart, kind graduates. We need you to be voices for equity, balance, and crucially, our planet. So students, in appreciation of all your efforts and talents this year, the College of the Environment is partnering with the Campus Sustainability Fund to help fund the Precious Plastics Project, to help UW Recycling meet its goal of 70% waste diversion by 2020. The funding will help make a small DIY plastics recycling workshop in the Maple Hall Maker Space. 4 machines will be installed to shred, melt, compress, and mold used plastic, transforming it into new usable products such as 3D printing filaments. This project was chosen based on a recommendation from our Student Advisory Council and then voted on you, our graduating class. We believe that making this investment on your behalf serves as a fitting tribute to your role as the next generation of leaders in environmental science and decision-making. It demonstrates our shared commitment to doing as much as we can to extend our understanding of this planet and to manage its resources for all of us and for future generations. Wherever you go next, I want you to take confidence and comfort in the knowledge that the world needs you, that your smarts are precious and valuable. Stay curious, be adventuresome, stretch your limits, and be kind to yourself. You have what it takes. And know that I will still be in the front row cheering you on, always. Congratulations.
Woohoo!
It is my your smarts are precious.
Every year at our graduation, we have a trio of speakers. The first of them this year, like every year, is our alumni speaker, because we are incredibly proud of the alumni that all of you are going to become. Anna Johnson graduated from the University of Washington in 2018. While a student here, she served as an assistant in Environment 100 and may have taught some of the students graduating today. She's been passionate about environmental policy since her first year at UW, and now works as a legislative assistant with the Washington State House of Representatives. For us, she serves a particularly valuable volunteer role as a current co-chair of the POE Alumni Council. Anna.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, everyone. It is so great to see so many familiar faces between the students and the faculty. As Gary mentioned, my name is Anna, and I'm a graduate of POE's class of 2018, and I'm so honored to be able to speak to you all today. Some of you may know me as your Environment 100 TA, or that alumni that is still around on Twitter. We can thank Pishon for that one. Or someone you've seen with the Alumni Council, which I know many of you probably aren't even sure what the Alumni Council does besides showing up with a beer or keg at Hippie Hangout once a year. More on that later. Since graduating, I've had a myriad of different jobs. Ask any alumni and they'll say the same thing. Post-grad isn't linear, okay? Right after graduating, I went to work in a restaurant because I couldn't find any other job at the time. And then I became an unpaid intern yet again. And both of these ventures humbled me quite a bit. You may find yourself in a similar spot after graduating. But don't take these experiences for granted, however relevant to environmental studies they may or may not seem. One thing always leads to another. After some time, I rose from an unpaid intern to helping elect the first woman doctor, a woman of science, to the United States Congress. And I know all of us here understand that we could use a little more science, well, a lot more, in forming our policy and politics these days. I've had 3 more jobs since then, bouncing around, each a little different than the other, and each leading to the next. And not all specifically about environmental issues, but always connected in some way. Today, I work in the Washington State House of Representatives as a legislative assistant. And the best thing of all is I get paid to help make lasting policy change because of my education at POE. That had always been the goal of mine since declaring the major. And I have faith that all of you will find your place in the world to make a difference that you intended to when you declared the major. And if you have trouble, I hope you know that the faculty, past alumni like myself, and your peers here with you today will be there to support you. Since I have graduated, it has become more and more evident that what we learn in POE is applicable everywhere. Many of you enjoyed this major because of its interdisciplinary nature or focus on intersectionality. Environmental issues are race issues, our class issues, our education issues, our corporate issues, our feminist issues, the list goes on. These issues are so rooted in numerous fields and industries and everyday life that POE has set you up to be able to walk into any room and bring a wealth of knowledge and valued skill. You understand collecting and interpreting data. You can thank Yenchu and Tim Billow for that one. And you understand environmentalism is also Black Lives Matter. And you understand how to take complex scientific topics and teach them to the layman. Trust me when I say that last point will come in handy when you reassure your grandma later on the importance of composting at your virtual Zoom grad party. Whatever path each of you take, your knowledge and skills will be valued and incredibly important in any office or occasion. I'll be the first to admit that graduating in 2020 looks so much different than what I know, but I'm here to remind each of you graduates that you should be so proud of yourselves. You showed up for multiple years and you put in work on your passion. You completed 3/4 or more of work on your capstone, and you adapted and showed resilience these last few months, even these last few weeks when times were like any other. I know this resilience will follow you. Back to a few things I mentioned at the beginning. Yes, I am that alumni that still uses Twitter because I love staying connected with POE and all of you. I'm here today to let you know that you can stay connected with your peers standing with you today and peers of years prior within the alumni community. More information can be found on the alumni section of POE's website, and you can stay connected on LinkedIn or Facebook, or my personal favorite, Twitter. As the Alumni Council co-chair, I joined the council because I believed so deeply in the importance of what all of us have studied and the skills we bring. I so passionately wanted to see you all connect with the workforce during your undergraduate and post-graduation. After this academic year, after lots of groundwork, the Alumni Council awarded its first and hopefully soon to be annual alumni scholarship to an undergraduate in the major. So yes, besides handing out beer at Hippie Hangout, the alumni are here to provide lasting impact on the students in POE through financial scholarship that fosters educational advancement. If you want to be a part of this, we'd welcome you with open arms. With all of this, I want to be the first alumni to tell you congratulations on graduating and welcome to the alumni community. Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you, Anna. I want to underscore, actually, I really hope that among the things that the POE faculty and students have done for you is prepare you, not just for that first job, but for the second and third and fourth one, because almost all of you are going to take that path. The next item in our program today is the Capstone Symposium Award presentations. And I want to pause here for just a second. The Capstone, which is a year-long project, including an internship, is, I think, one of the most distinctive and valuable things that the POE program does for and with its students. It takes an incredible amount of labor from everybody who's involved in it. This year, though, obviously, it's been somewhat different and special. My reaction this year to what all of you have accomplished is, oh my God, right, I can't, 10 weeks ago, I would not have believed actually that all of this could be as successful and have gone as smoothly as it did. You all deserve credit for that. All of the faculty who every year work with our Capstone students deserve credit for that. But I'm calling on you again to unmute briefly because Sean McDonald is the Capstone coordinator. And I think there's simply no question that this year, his efforts to make the Capstone work have been heroic. And so if we could do another raucous, cacophonous round of applause for Sean, that would be great.
Yeah, go Sean!
Go, Sean! I'm thankful for your day.
That's how you got the word?
Sean.
Great. Hi, everybody. Yes, as Gary mentioned, I'm the instructor for the Capstone courses here at POE, and I hopefully am a better instructor than I am an IT guy. I apologize for this live stream. I am not trained in this regard, but I am fortunate in that I get to work with all of these great students, many for a year or more on their Capstone projects, which are really the culmination of an intensive professional experience as well as a really deep research project. And I'm very proud of the work that our students have done this year, especially in this last quarter, which has been so hard on all of them. At this point, I would love to acknowledge the winners of the Capstone Symposium Presentation Awards. In the fall and in the spring, we have our Capstone Symposiums. Our students present their work, and we're all fortunate to see the fruits of their labors. And we select, with the help of our alumni judges and our site supervisors, the best posters to recognize for you here now. So I'm going to start with the autumn 2019 winners. These are the presentations that won during the autumn symposium. And I should mention that with all of our presentations, that the judging is extremely tight because our students do such a great job, but we have to select a few winners. And so I'm going to show those to you now. First, I'll start with the oral presentations that we had during autumn quarter. Our honorable mention during autumn quarter was for Leila Cooper. Her presentation, Evaluating Recreation Equity, Do Washington Public Lands Serve Everyone? It's a project she did with the Washington Department of Natural Resources. So great job, Layla. The winner of the best oral presentation for autumn 2019 was Emily Bussey. Vitamin in Nature, time spent outdoors improves student well-being and impacts environmental worldview. And that was a project that she did with Seattle Waldorf School. So way to go, Emily. Yay. In terms of poster presentations, we had an honorable mention for Dakota Fry, speaking on sustainability, environmental communication in business and professional contexts. This is a project that he did with Town and Country Markets. And we had two winners of the Best Poster Award for Autumn Quarter. Maddie Eppel, Should I Post This? How Images Capture Your Target Audience. And she won jointly with Max Rennie, Can Financial Incentives Influence Pro-Environmental Behavior? And that was a project that he did with Sustainable Ballard. All right. Congratulations to all of the winners for autumn 2019. Now we'll move on to spring 2020. These awards have not been announced yet, and so I'm sure everyone is on the edge of their seat. And I should mention that in spring 2020, we only had poster presentations. There were no oral presentations during spring of 2020. So we chose to recognize 4 posters that were outstanding. I should mention again that the judging was extremely tight among these 4. And so I'll show you the honorable mentions first. We have 2 honorable mentions. First, Christina Foltz, Effective Transboundary Management in the Salish Sea, an evaluation of the US-Canada Joint Statement of Cooperation. That was a project that she did with the US EPA Region 10. Yay. Another honorable mention was for Julie Tomey, Changing Plans in a Changing Climate, Using Environmental Plans to Understand Tribal Climate Adaptation Priorities. Again, she did her project with US EPA Region 10. And our 2 joint winners for spring 2020, Emily Forsberg, Technology's Role in Localizing Our Food System. It's a project that she did with Barn to Door. And I will note that her site supervisor on this project was also a student in our program, an alumni of our program who was working at the organization, Bernice Laura. And she went jointly with Bella Sanchez, Adding Animals to Ecosystems, the Case for Managed Livestock Grazing. So if you'd like to unmute at this time and give a big round of applause to all of the winners, I think that would be fantastic. Thank you all. As I said, it's my extreme pleasure to work with all of the students as part of the Capstone, and thank you for your time.
Okay, we now have a pair of speakers, one pre-recorded and one virtually live, our keynote speaker and our student speaker. The keynote speaker is Kathleen Dean Moore, who has been for many years a hugely influential and important figure in environmental studies. She is a distinguished professor of philosophy emeritus at Oregon State University and co-founder and senior fellow of the Spring Creek Project for Ideas, Nature, and the Written Word. An environmental philosopher, Moore writes about moral, spiritual, and cultural relationships to the natural world. A recent volume that she co-edited, Moral Ground, Ethical Action for a Planet in Peril, addresses the question, do we have a moral obligation to the future to leave a world as rich in possibilities as the world we inherited? As a teacher, scholar, creative writer, and activist, her current work applies ecological concepts to the challenges of making a powerful moral response to our environmental emergency. Professor Moore.
Congratulations, class of 2020. You did it. You finished your capstone project. You completed your classes and your exams despite self-isolation and masked friends, technology-challenged TAs, suddenly blank Zoom screens, and a professor's face frozen in a mid-sentence contortion. You managed to tie up all the loose ends even as you were torn loose from all the plans you had made. That's okay. There will be time for new plans. But right now, you deserve to stop and take a long, deep breath. When you step outside tonight under the gibbous moon, the air will be cleaner than it has been in your lifetime. The evening will be quieter too. The robin's evening chorus will not have to shout to be heard over combusting engines and jack brakes. Under the same moon, in cities near and far, people will try to breathe deeply, but they will choke on pepper spray and gasp for breath. A man, say his name, George Floyd, summoning us all. I can't breathe. It's not the world you planned for. Graduating while people and businesses are locked down by a global pandemic that has thrown 36 million Americans out of work. While millions of people kneel in the streets to protest racial injustice, and all the while, climate chaos screams warnings in the language of yet another hurricane. So yeah, I get it. This isn't the world you were promised. I wouldn't wonder if you felt upended, even betrayed, certainly whiplashed at the speed of the change. This is what a paradigm shift feels like. This is what a pivot point feels like, vertiginous, squealing, as changes crank the heavy creaking wheel of the world to make a great turning. It's an altogether breathless time, a portentous time as the world pauses to see what will come next. But I have to tell you, this old philosophy professor, this old climate hawk, I climb out of bed each morning feeling better about the chances for the sizzling, souring world than I have for a long time. Not just feeling better, but feeling positively energized. Terrible news is breaking, and suddenly the sense of possibility and power are overwhelming. You may think I'm nuts. I'm not. I have been reading ancient Japanese poetry, Mizuta Masahaide, late 1600s, haiku. Barns burnt down. Now I can see the moon. Barns burnt down. Now I can see the moon. There, the burnt barn, the glittering embers of the lies we have told each other, the spurious justifications for wrongs we know cannot endure, the excuses we made for institutional cruelty, all the excuses burned down, the way families in the Middle Ages burned their own homes to stop the plague. And there, suddenly, the moon. In wind that rattles the windows, the moon glows on the campus grounds, pouring milk-white light across the lawns and walkways. Each tree stands in the black pool of its own moon shadow, and we, our minds alight as never before, walk quickly, trying to escape the shadows. Everything is revealed. What can we see that we did not see before? 3 things. 1, we can see clearly now what we only glimpsed before, that radical change is morally necessary. 2, we can see clearly now what we might not have believed before, that structural change is possible. 3, we can see clearly now who we must become in order to be part of that change. So, insights 1 through 3. Once, some time ago, I stood at sunset on the edge of a mountain lake where a line of yellow fire advanced up the ridge through forests killed by drought and beetles. The moon rose flaky and red, apocalyptic, over a black lava plain. Insight 1. We can see clearly now what we only glimpsed before, that radical change is morally necessary. For a long time, we've all known that something was terribly wrong with an unjust world rushing toward climate chaos and global extinction. But you don't have to take my word for it. Examine the nature of the challenges that you are facing today as you struggle to enter the economic system. If I were a powerful American plutocrat, and if I wanted no pushback as I grew obscenely rich by stealing and selling what didn't belong to me, I would design a system exactly like this one. I would make sure that education was so expensive that students had to take jobs they didn't believe in to pay their debt. I would make healthcare so expensive that young people would sell their freedom for it. I would make wages so low that people would have to work 2 jobs or 3, leaving them no energy to resist. I would pass laws to make protest a felony and call out the army to enforce them. I would bungle the moral and medical challenges of the pandemic, so there was little choice but lockdown and no jobs and mile-long lines for food. Are you surprised at the challenges you face? This is not bad luck, people. This is a business plan. Sure, shit happens, but sometimes people with economic and political power intentionally design systems in which shit is more likely to occur. That is wrong. Insight number 1, change is a moral obligation. Once, a long time ago, long after dark, I piled a group of my philosophy of nature students into my drift boat and rowed out onto a mountain lake. The moon rose, bulging out between black mountains. The students talked quietly about the beauty of the world, about how much they loved the world, and how that love empowered them to defend it. Insight number 2, we can see clearly now what we didn't see before, that real structural change is possible. If you are looking for evidence that change is possible, look no further than to the humane social response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It has burned the barn of despair to the ground. It has revealed to us the depth of human goodness and moral resolve. It has taught us that change will not come from sudden moral awakening on the part of the federal government. It will come from the conscience of the streets. Maybe we have been taught to despise ourselves. Maybe politicians have taught us that we're nothing but haters. Maybe advertisers have taught us that we're nothing but consumers. Those are lies. We are moral agents born to create and protect community. When the pandemic began to spread, people chose to stop flying. They stopped commuting to work. They stayed home from the bars and the butchers. They did it for the common good, to save lives. They did it for the elderly, for the sick, for the especially vulnerable poor and people of color. The price of oil fell below $0 per barrel. Carbon emissions fell 17%, as low as they were the year I was born, a long time ago. We can reduce carbon emissions. We can economically change economically entrenched patterns of consumption. We can reform the structural injustice of a system that makes the poor and people of color disproportionately vulnerable to sickness and early death. We can, every one of us, make sacrifices for the common good and find that there is no more joyous work. Offered a choice between your money or your life, we can choose life. We can remember that human beings are kin, woven into an achingly beautiful world of living beings who all share the same origins, who will share the same fate. We can choose to create a culture based on gratitude, reciprocity, justice, and restraint. We can, yes, we can change. This is very good news. Charles Darwin pointed out, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Insight number 3. We can now see who we must become. Once, a long time ago, I stood with 2 other writers in a pear orchard under a full moon. All our lives we had felt powerless. But that night, we somehow understood that, like the moon itself, we are children of the earth, pulled from her spinning surface. And so we will take on the duties of the moon we promised. We will not turn our faces against earthly troubles. The shadow of the earth will pass over our faces, but it will not erase us. At the edge of that moving shadow, our faces, our characters, will be most clearly seen. And here's what matters. At that point, we didn't know what we would do, but we knew who we must become. And so will you find yourself and your work, which is to seize this chance, maybe this last chance, to redeem the beautiful promise of this world and of your humanity. Who are the people who will redeem the world? I think I know. They will be people of intellectual integrity, educated to understand the universal story of a world that is finite, resilient, interdependent, and astonishingly beautiful. They will be people of radical imagination and vision, reinventing everything, dreaming the world anew. The people who redeem the world will be people who understand that hope is not a lottery ticket you can sit on the couch and clutch, feeling lucky. Hope is the red-handled axe that you use to break down doors in an emergency, as Rebecca Solnit said. They will be people of deep moral courage who refuse to be made into foot soldiers in the old economy's war against the world, who refuse to be disempowered by despair. They will be people who love this raucous, reeling world, who affirm its absolute value and defend it fiercely and faithfully for all time. Class of 2020, you have the education, you have the vision, you have the wild, roaring imagination, you have the hope. May you take a deep breath to summon the moral courage, and may it sustain you in the great work ahead.
Okay.
Gary, you're muted.
I'm unmuted, yeah.
Small glitch. Yeah, I really hope and believe that we in fact are today starting on and have started on the path that Kathleen laid out for us to follow. I'm a literature professor by trade, so I can't go through any event without including a book that I think people should read. Her talk made me think of one of the most powerful books that I've ever read, Leslie Marmon Silko's Ceremony, which is very much about the remaking of rituals, that as we go through them and perform the rituals that give so much meaning to our lives, we need constantly to be reinventing them in the ways that I think she sketched out for us. Next, with great pleasure and virtually live, we have Claire Priyanka Kasinadni. Sorry, I practiced a lot. That still wasn't perfect. I
That was
apologize.
incredible.
No, that was not good. Claire was a UW farm lead and garden steward whose capstone with King County focused on community gardens and resources. She has,
You okay, Gary?
I went away for a second. My computer, I think. Let me start over. Claire Priyanka Kasinadni was a UW farm lead and a garden steward whose capstone with King County focused on community gardens and resources. She has a passion for politics and served as an environmental policy intern for Representative Pramila Jayapal. Claire is a recipient of the Husky 100 Award, given each year to 100 graduate and undergraduate students for outstanding academic achievement and involvement in the community. She holds departmental honors and has been on the Dean's List every quarter. She was selected for this role, I would underscore, by the collective vote of her cohort of POE students. So please, Claire.
Hey, Claire!
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I never imagined I would speak on graduation, nevertheless be speaking via Zoom to my computer. I'm honored to have been given the opportunity to sum up our journey in POE, and I hope we can find both closure and celebration during these hectic times. I want to start out thanking my instructors, families who are in attendance, and of course, the POE class of 2020 for being here. To be honest, it's a big ask. I got sort of short notice that I'd be speaking at graduation. The message relayed to me was something like, please put an 8-minute speech together and send it to me in 2 days. Also, you can watch past videos to get some inspiration. I said yes, honored, but I have to admit, incredibly nervous. Addressing you all during this time seemed daunting, and graduation seemed trivial. But I started down a YouTube rabbit hole for some speech inspiration. The thing is, I could not find apocalyptic graduation speech or how to address a bunch of people when the world is falling apart. Instead, I spent time watching a bunch of people from the past get their respective classes hyped on entering an exciting, pristine, possibility-filled world. However, as we all know, this is not 2020, and that is not our current world. I want to address the current pain and recent events we have been facing. I feel like if I go about this without mentioning the Black Lives Matter movement or COVID-19, I would fail to fully acknowledge what this class has been going through and the current climate we are entering as college graduated adults. We have all been reading the countless social media posts and news articles that eloquently discuss the nationwide protests, framing them in history and painting a complex picture of systemic racism coming to a head. I'm inspired by the work of individuals and communities demanding change. I can't begin to sum up this movement, its importance, and all of our different roles in it, so I won't. But there is something that we all share. The protests and this moment in history have opened up a space to discuss race, equity, and social justice in our field. It has aggressively pointed out the lack of diversity in our discipline, major, and even in our graduating class. In this, we all have something to contribute and bring into our future work. In this, we all hold a piece of the responsibility. And to address the other reality we face, coronavirus. It is utterly surreal. We have all adjusted our lives, an academic world revolving around screens, faces hidden behind masks, no more late night, debatably unnecessary snack runs. Everything is different. We have had to move home prematurely or really get to know our roommates. We have had to showcase our Capstone adventures via Zoom. We have had to discover what it feels like to wrap up 4 years of college in the midst of a pandemic. In order to not completely collapse under the sheer tragedies of an economic depression, countless COVID deaths, and increased police brutality, I turn to the micro scale. The zoomed in version of life that reminds me of the good and the great in the world. I think toggling between scales is the key to a sane mind and soul, and also to a purposeful life. On the small scale of my college experience, things are very random. I started farming, which was not only a shock to my family and friends, but it was also an unheard of concept to be farming in the urban sprawl of Seattle. I started working with a club that focused on Indigenous rights and watershed protection. I got really into identifying plants and birds. I discovered I loved history. These were the disconnected, disjointed events of my college experience that, when left by themselves, don't really point to what I'm doing today or what I hope to do in the future. But the thing is, when I step back and look at the larger scale, it all makes sense. Farming taught me about the somewhat buried and ignored rural narrative. I learned the truth about whose land we stand on and how we came to be on it, atrocities that were not explained to me in conventional history classes growing up. I learned about the importance of biodiversity and the beauty and variety of animals and plants in my backyard. So many lessons from professors, from classes, and from my peers that weave together to create the person I am today. I majored in environmental studies, but I feel like I could qualify that. I majored in environmental studies with a hint of history, political science, and psychology. I discovered along the way all these passions I didn't know existed, and with the flexibility of our major, I got to discover and indulge in all of them. Different disciplines gift us different lenses. Environmental studies has given us the ability to see interconnection. Rather than disconnected and disparate problems plaguing our society, we see a series of problems strung together. Even though my future work might have little to do with direct environmental action, it will be based around this lens. One of my first classes at the UW was Environment 100. I met Eli and was shocked when he started out our first day by reading a poem, followed by an explosion of joy as he practically yelled, "Guys, isn't that the best?" It was my freshman year and I did not picture college classes working that way. I later took natural history of the Puget Sound with Tim. I'd heard so many things about it, but did not realize it would give me new eyes for my backyard and a renewed deep appreciation for the Pacific Northwest. I figured out I was a bird gal, even though I was convinced birds were boring. I started taking guidebooks in the backcountry, and I even YouTubed how to replicate iconic bird calls. Honestly, I'll just leave that one to Tim. Way harder than it seems. I also figured out I love Twitter. Thanks, Pishawn. You have no clue how much shade I was throwing your way for making me create a Twitter. #yeehaw. I'm so thankful for professors that stoked my curiosity and challenged me to explore the world outside the immediate realm of the environment. At times I was confused about my direction, but when I really zoomed out and decided that the world was truly my oyster, I gained clarity. Today, the overwhelming large scale of coronavirus, the protests, the economic collapse, all taken at once are terrifying. I cannot deny this reality. But amongst the chaos, I can also see hope and possibility. When we zoom out of the current political and environmental climate, we can see that COVID has reduced the endless and exhaustive carbon pipeline. For the first time in decades, the Himalayas can be seen from cities in India. We have seen a dramatic reduction in CO2 levels. It's deeply disturbing to see our economic prosperity tied so closely with fossil fuels. But we have all complied with the realities of COVID, and as a result, we have changed 2020 carbon projections. It is inspiring to know it's possible, even if it's not under ideal circumstances. There's a similar reality with protests. People in their individual power have started to change policy across the country. LA has decided to use funds initially allocated for LAPD purposes on community services. Minnesota has promised to dismantle and recreate their police system. There are politicians and famous figures declaring not only that Black Lives Matter, but that they were wrong in their previous thinking. This is inspiring. This is hopeful. Out of the chaos, it is possible to rebuild something better. A system that runs on justice and equality, a society that isn't wrapped up in capitalism and extraction. The wild thing is that we're now the people designing the system. We are at a pivotal point where people are demanding change and we are the ones called on to respond. As intimidating as this sounds, I encourage us all to reflect back on what we have learned and to accept the truth that we are ready. We are ready for this world POE class of 2020. We are ready to be change makers. Thank you, everyone.
Next, we're going to have the highlight of our graduation ceremony, the Bachelor of Arts processional. I want to pause because I'm going to need to depart. I have to go to a college level quarter wrap-up meeting, which is part of what chairs and directors do. I do want to, though, acknowledge how beautifully I think Claire both can write and speak even on just 48 hours notice. I'm wondering what 72 hours might in fact produce. So one thing I want to do is to collectively, not individually, acknowledge the POE faculty and staff. A huge amount of work went into making this event possible. Sean and Christy Strauss did tech work. Tim worked on slides. Everybody contributed in various ways to making this a real experience for all of you. They are really remarkable people, and you should take some time to actually thank all of them. Right? The two of them who are going to be announcing the names, Kim Below and Eli Wheat. I will now turn over to them and wish all of you well as far into the future as any of you go. Thanks for being here. Kim, Eli.
Thank you, Gary.
Great. Well, it's an honor to be able to get to announce all of your names and your capstone projects. Before I do that, and before Eli does this with me, I thought it'd be great to just take a moment to acknowledge the parents and grandparents and caregivers and the huge support network that has supported our students to this point and through their career. And I know that many of you are here watching, and maybe you're watching the YouTube live stream. If we could just take a moment to give all of those wonderful folks a round of applause.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're on music.
great. Yeah, so Eli, are we ready?
Yes, Tim. Do you remember, are you starting or
I
am
think
I?
I think you're starting, Eli. So,
Okay. And
oh, and should we lay some ground rules? We do want to hear a raucous round of applause for each student, but if you could maybe hold the applause until we finish reading the title of your capstone presentation. And yeah, it'd be great to have some audience participation here. And then as soon as that applause dies down, we'll move to the next student.
yeah, and just one other thing is, it's a little bit challenging to read all of your names and pronounce them correctly. We've practiced and tried, and we're going to do our very best. And know that if an error is made, it is not out of a lack of respect or admiration for who you are as individuals. I care deeply about a lot of you. I've never pronounced some of your middle names or last names before, so I apologize in advance if we do this wrong. So thank you for your understanding. Normally in graduation, we get a little moment to double check. Oh, do you pronounce this letter this way? And because you hand us a card in person, so this is a little different. So we'll do our best. So Tim, I'm starting.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean. Okay, great. Awesome. Bernice Joy Alora, connecting food deserts to nutritious food sources.
Elizabeth Besser, bolstering food security through community building.
Pranav Bharadwaj, evaluating technological tools and environmental informatics as a tool to enhance environmental literacy.
Madeline Bloom, promoting sustainable living through composting.
Jacqueline Briseño Arceo, suggestions for community outreach in green stormwater infrastructure incentive programs.
Isabella Castro, how collaboration outshines litigation in enforcing environmental policies.
Nicole Chuo, trust, the core of environmental donating decisions.
Nicole.
Samantha A. Chu, journey to the center of nature, children's connection to the outdoors.
Duke Randall Clinch, impacts of nitrogen fixing tree incorporation in cacao agroforestry systems.
Yay, Duke.
Leela Cooper, evaluating recreational equity. Do Washington public lands serve everyone?
Yay, Leela.
Fiona Cromarty, linking salmon and human health, communicating the services of habitat restoration.
Yay, Fiona!
Regina Sanchez Durst, clearing the waters, investigating the viability of market-based instruments as a tool for water quality improvement.
Yay, Gina!
Maddie Eppel, should I post this? How social media images capture your target audience.
Yeah,
Yay!
Christina Fultz, effective transboundary management in the Salish Sea, an evaluation of the US EPA Environment Canada Joint Statement of Cooperation. Woo.
Yay, Christina!
Emily Forsberg, computer technology's role in localizing food systems.
Yay!
Dakota Ryan Fry, speaking on sustainability, environmental communication in business and professional contexts.
Yay! That puppy.
Celine Amanda Fujikawa, rethinking communications, engaging communities through place-based storytelling among children in Soto, Ethiopia.
Yay, Celine!
Jessica Garcia, engaging communities through online tools for green infrastructure.
Yay, Jessica! I love dogs.
I love all these pictures of puppies. Gabriel Emmanuel Green, whom I only know as Gabe. The challenges facing trail planning and development in Washington State.
Yay, Gabe!
Sarah G. Hawney, facilitating citizen science and improving continual engagement in community projects.
Yay, Sarah!
They're Madison, John.
Madison Jane Hoyland, assessing statistical similarity in the restoration and reference sites in Port Susan Bay.
Yay, Maddie!
Jiawei Huang, early growth rate of the Pacific Ocean perch using morphometric analysis and calculation.
Yay, Jai!
Sean Yusei Imamura, green gentrification, the hidden injustice of greening communities.
Yay!
Skylar Ann Jacobson, getting fishy with environmental education.
Yay, Skylar!
Tyler T. Job, compostable diapers, examining challenges, opportunities, and barriers to widespread transformation of the diaper market.
Yay, Tyler! The diaper market!
Claire Priyanka Kasanadani, community gardens and resources, completing the loop.
Yay, Claire!
Deanna Kaczynski, visual communication in the Amazon, perspectives and knowledge on rainforest degradation.
Diana!
Pooja Kumar, environmental engagement and outreach. How can we spur climate action in King County?
Yay, Pooja!
Ashley Lee, environmental education, using drawings as an alternative assessment tool.
Yay, Ashley!
Aranja Rose Lauter, signs of the times, using technology to connect people with nature through a digital trail guide.
Yay!
Yay!
Stefan Eric Mahler, the urban green, analysis of urban systems and the impact of green stormwater infrastructure when redesigning public spaces.
Yay, Stefan!
Marwa Mahmood, communicating fish information and fishing regulations in Mount Rainier National Park.
Yay, Marwa.
Evan Mon, encouraging stewardship and fighting ecophobia through service learning.
Yay, Evan!
Carrie Ann Bridget McCarthy, investigating juvenile salmon scales as indices of length and growth.
Cheers.
Yay, Carrie Ann!
Anna L. McKee, raptor rehabilitation demographics, human impacts in Western Washington.
Yay, Anna!
Emily Jane Minkus, differentiated environmental education.
Yay, Emily!
Perla Guadalupe Moran, urban forest restoration for ecological health and social well-being.
Yay, Perla!
Krina R. Munn, bringing the ocean to the country, how kelp amendments on grasslands can sequester carbon.
Heck yeah! Lauren Nerozzo, communication is key. An assessment of outreach and communication to aid Alaskan tribes in their solid waste management efforts. Congratulations.
Remy Tan Nguyen, identifying and overcoming barriers to composting at wildland fire camps.
Yeah, Remy.
Yay, Remy!
AV K. Nice, college athletics as a platform for sustainability.
Yay, Remy!
Claire J. Perez, soil sampling in Discovery Park. Why is it important to know our soils?
Yay, Claire!
Ashton Pierce, database development for tracking regional quality assurance and science.
Jeremy Pilgrim Stoppel, incentives could be the key to increasing green building.
Yay, Jeremy!
Max Rennie. Can financial incentive programs influence pro-environmental behavior?
Yay, Max!
Sophia Romanelli, Tribal Climate Adaptation, Restructuring U.S. Government Support.
Hey, Sophia!
Bella Sanchez, Mixed Grazing and Sustainable Livestock Production, Promoting Ecological Function in Pasture Lands.
Yay!
Hey, Bella!
Heather Schranks, Community Outreach and Allyship, Replacing the Teach To with a Learn From attitude.
Yay!
Heather!
Natalie Schwartz, Digging Deeper, Female Identity in Sustainable Agriculture.
Hey, Natalie!
Oh, boy.
Ethan Sedgemore, Examination of Western Washington
yes.
residents' perceptions, behaviors, and awareness of wildlife. Congrats.
Yay, Ethan!
Andrew Simpson, ATSDR, Chemical Proximity to Child Care Facilities.
Hey, Drew!
That's a high school picture, dude.
Dick Smoot, It's All Part of the System, Assessing Waste, Water, and Education Infrastructure through an Integrated Model.
Yay!
Yay, Mick!
Katie Spires, Keeping Wilderness Wild, The Importance of Management.
Yay, Katie!
Nicholas Matthew Stoffer, Successful Community Science Takeaways, a Case Study.
Yay, Nick!
Li Ling Tan, Addressing Environmental Justice Through Policy and Infrastructure Solutions to Achieve Safer Routes to School in Seattle, Washington.
Oh.
Hey, Lee.
Kaylin Theed, Placemaking in Outdoor Preschools.
Yay, Kevin!
Julie Quinn Tolnay, Changing Plans in a Changing Climate, Evaluating Environmental Plans as a Tool to Understand Tribal Nations' Climate Adaptation Priorities.
Yay, Julie!
Oh, Julie!
Baljinium Tovodorj, Improving Collaboration in Large-Scale Forestation Projects, Washington 20-Year Forest Plan. Congrats.
Yay, Macha!
Edward Tung, Increasing Volunteer Rates Through Raising Visibility at the UW Student Farm. Yay, Edward.
Yay, Edward!
McKinley Marie Walter, Better Ways to Monitor Recreational Fishing in Australia. Yeah.
Yay, McKinley!
Sam Workington, Enhancing Environmental Work Through Best Management Practices in Grant Funding Programs. Hey, Sam.
Yay, Sam!
Yeah.
Ilan Wong, funding climate action, the role of small funders. Congrats.
Alan!
We made it.
Xiao Zhao, invertebrate habitats, the evaluation on Duamis shorelines.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hey, Joe!
Mei Shi, improving volunteer retention rates.
Yay, May!
Yichin Yao, healing through learning, the effect of gardening courses on college students' health.
Yay, Jen!
Kira Smith Zieger, wildlife conflict in the Amazon, how community engagement can change conservation. Congrats.
Hey, Kara!
Yeah.
Alex Chen, Lower Columbia River Basin, using geographic information systems to understand differences in land cover correlations between two threatened salmonid species in East Fork Lewis subwatershed. All right.
Yay, Alex!
Jessica Ju, the consequences of delaying park restoration. Congratulations.
Yay, Jessica!
Cole Zerzinski, the implementation of acoustic monitoring and scientists in large-scale ecosystem studies and surveys. Woohoo!
Yay, Cole!
Lena Lee, articulating science, art-based environmental education in children.
Yay, Lena!
Yay.
Yay! Congratulations, graduates! So happy for all of you.
Yeah, I think that concludes, I know that concludes the reading of our names, our graduating seniors' names and their amazing projects. And so I think we should do one last rousing round of applause for all of our incredible seniors. And after that, we're going to hand it briefly to our Associate Director, Christy Strauss, for a final word. But let's do one loud, rousing round of applause one more time. Woohoo!
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, POE graduates. So happy for you. Okay. Sean, are you ready for me? Final words?
Sure.
Okay. I truly wish that we could send you forth in a healthy and systemically healthy world. And I'm sorry that we can't. And I am honored and believe that what you've learned over these past 4 years sets you out, as Claire said so well, to be change makers, to build the future that we all deserve. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you, so proud of you. And we have all just loved the opportunity to work with you and grow with you and learn from you over the past 2 to 5 years. So congratulations on all of your hard work, and know you are finishing this chapter of your lives and beginning a new chapter, and you're learning and working for environmental studies, for justice, and for the future is really only beginning. I also want you to know, again, we did this at the beginning. I think we did it in the middle and we're doing it at the end. Take a moment to appreciate the people who supported you as you got to this stage, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your community, your friends, the people you leaned on, supported you financially, emotionally, intellectually. Just take a moment to acknowledge them. And also let's give them all a round of applause. And I think I have just two things left to say. One is that we really like you. We love working with you and teaching you. And when you graduate, so many of you disappear. We hope none of you disappear from POE and that you stay in the fold. Know that we want to stay in touch with you. So one way to do that is through the Alumni Council. The information is here on screen. The POE Alumni Council, you can email them on Gmail. You should also stay on Twitter. There's a alumni Facebook group. You can get all that information. If you go to that code, the QR code, you can get all that information at the POE website also. So don't be strangers. And this was a wonderful and beautiful celebration, but it's really different than being in person. So know that someday when it is safe to do so, we will invite you all back home to POE to be celebrated in person. Whether that's 3 months from now or 2 years from now, know that you are welcome and invited to come back and celebrate with us, and you deserve it. So we hope to see you in the future. Stay in touch. And finally, we will try to have some small breakout rooms on Zoom afterwards. We're not totally certain how that will work, but the faculty are going to stay on the line. And if you are interested in checking in with us, either all of us together or individuals in a small group, we hope that will happen. Congratulations again.
Yay!
You did it.
Some small breakout rooms.